Xbox One has been a punching bag with the gaming community in terms of their exclusive content, but contrary to what many people believe, Team Xbox has some very good console exclusives on their platform. Now, I do need to emphasize that right now, but these are console exclusives because Microsoft does release their games on both PC and Xbox. However, I think Xbox does have some console exclusives that are not just the best on Xbox, but some of the best in the industry, while other games I feel are just a bit underrated. Now, for list purposes, I try to stick with one game per franchise, unless it's a spin-off or it's just vastly different. Anyways, let's get right into this. At number 15, we have State of Decay 2. I'm actually not usually a big fan of zombie games per se, but State of Decay 2 is one exception, as I was immediately sucked into the world. It allows you not only to fight off hordes of zombies, but you must keep your community alive by scavenging for food, resources, and shelter, which is what I find to be so alluring about State of Decay. It may have some technical issues here and there, but don't let that distract you from it being a fun and addictive game. Recore Definitive Edition may possibly be the most underrated game on this entire list. It almost feels like an old school platformer game with very tight controls mixed in with a Metroidvania game. It gives you a sprawling open world to explore, fun combat, and honestly, I really like the art style and characters in Recore as well. When it originally released, it did have some technical issues, but the Definitive Edition is more like what the game was always meant to be. Recore in many ways, I believe, is a bit of a hidden gem that is often overlooked this generation. Halo Wars 2, in terms of real-time strategy games on consoles, is superb, and it actually is one of the best real-time strategy games on consoles, period. It, however, may not stand toe-to-toe with some of the PC RTS games, but even then, it's still a good RTS, and don't let it diminish the fact that Halo Wars 2 is a good game. It has a fun competitive multiplayer mode, and pretty solid as far as the single-player campaign goes as well. And of course, if you're a Halo fan, this is a must-have, which continues the ever-expansive lore in the universe. And seriously, just look at the cutscenes. They look amazing. Quantum Break is yet another game that I believe is a bit underrated, and I feel a little unfairly at that. It actually has a really interesting story about a failed experiment with a time machine, and now time itself is fractured, and it's all mixed in with some live action cutscenes with phenomenal acting. I mean, it's actually some of the best acting you're going to see in video games. The gameplay itself is pretty good, and it's very similar to other cinematic games like it, such as Tomb Raider and Uncharted, but with its own unique take on giving the protagonist some time-related abilities. You really do feel like a superhero morphing through time. If you like cinematic games, I feel you'll definitely like Quantum Break. It actually amazes me just how talented the Turn 10 team is, as they pump out arguably the best racing sim games every other year. Each car just feels so good and unique. You not only get a race in realistic cars and tracks, but you also get to paint and design the cars that you want. It's pretty amazing seeing exactly what artistic people can paint on these beautiful cars. I'm lucky to make a simple circle, but I'm not exactly artistic. But I'm also not gonna lie, I love sporting some of my fandom on these supercars. Rare Replay is actually one of the best collections ever made, and has so many great games such as Perfect Dark, Battletoads, Killer Instinct, Cameo, Viva Pinatas, Banjo-Kazooie, Conquer, and the list goes on and on. It's such a good collection and a must-have for Rare fans as well as Xbox fans in general. I can't emphasize that enough. While you may not be getting anything new, you will be getting some of the best games ever made. And hey, let's keep hoping for another Banjo-Kazooie game. Outer Wilds took me by complete surprise on how good it actually was. It's an adventure game that packs a ton of charm into the world and characters around you, and really puts you into the shoes of an astronaut, and what it would be like to try and solve the mysteries of the universe. Outer Wilds never holds your hands and lets you solve these mysteries at your own pace, and in what order you want. And as you dig deeper, you only become more and more interested into the world around you. In some planets, the actual planet is just falling apart, or there might be typhoons going all around the area. There's just so many things to discover. I will tell you now though, you do need to like puzzles because that is the main focus of Outer Wilds. But it's always rewarding because really it's a masterpiece. And I don't like to just throw that word around, but really I could put Outer Wilds in my top 3, and I think it would be perfectly fitting. I've said this over and over, but Ori and the Blind Forest is one of the best Metroidvania games ever made. But what makes Ori so unique is in how good the platforming is. Unlike many other Metroidvania games like it, the platforming plays a huge emphasis, and I think it even holds up well to games primarily focused on platforming. That's how good I think it is. The art style is also just as beautiful and is probably one of the best looking games this generation. While many people will of course point out to games designed with realism, you'll have a hard time finding a game as artistically mesmerizing as Ori and the Blind Forest. And I think Ori is a timeless mascot as well, and I only wish more people knew about Ori because he's such a cute and honestly such a memorable creature. On top of all that though, it has fun combat where you can upgrade your abilities and destroy baddies as you learn more and more about the touching and sad story of Ori. Sea of Thieves may have released as a bare-bones title, but don't let that fool you because it has drastically improved since its initial release. If there was a reward for most improved games of this generation, I think Sea of Thieves may be up for that reward. It's not only a unique game in terms of how the naval combat feels, but it now also has plenty of things to do, such as hunting treasure, battle ghost ships, raids, fishing, hunt a kraken or megalodon, a PvP battle or arena mode, and there is even a story now. There's so much to do now in Sea of Thieves, and it feels much more like a complete package than its initial release. And like I said, there is nothing else in the market that feels just like Sea of Thieves. Insomniac may be well known for their PlayStation games such as Ratchet & Clank and Spyro, and even their most recent Spider-Man game, but Sunset Overdrive continues their legendary legacy over on Xbox. It's a crazy fun game in a very colorful and chaotic world. You can even use trees as trampolines, which again just goes to show you how crazy it can be. It plays similar to Ratchet & Clank with a mix of Infamous. It has some platforming mechanics, but it wouldn't be an Insomniac game without their crazy weapons and gadgets, which you get plenty of. It's an often overlooked game this generation, but it really shouldn't be. After Epic Games finished up with Gears of War, there was a question of whether or not Gears of War was officially over. The Coalition, however, took on the tall task of making Gears of War 4. Luckily, Gears 4 continued the legacy of Gears in a good way. The multiplayer still felt unique as you wall bounced wall to wall with your Gnasher, and the story is a fun experience. It may not be the world's best story, but it's enjoyable nonetheless, and seems to set up a much larger story for Gears 5. Then you also have the Horde mode, which allows you to go up against wave after wave of enemies. In an era where developers usually only pick single player or multiplayer, Gears is one of the last franchises to release as one enormous game, giving you pretty much everything you want from day one. Gears 5 also releases in just one short month, so let's get excited for that. This one may be a surprise to some people, but really, Ashen is such a fantastic game. Not only does the simplistic art style look great, but the gameplay is just as good. It's challenging and feels very Dark Souls-esque. It's got that heavy but precise feel to the weapons and a real risk to dying, but when you accomplish your goal, it's one of the more rewarding feelings in video games, and the bosses are so well designed. I think when I beat the first boss in Ashen, as it would still light for me to keep me in the dark quite literally, I knew I loved Ashen. I genuinely believe that Ashen is one of the best RPG games of this generation. You can play this in co-op, or you can play it by yourself, depending on what style you like the best. Halo Master Chief Collection may not have released the way we all envisioned with networking issues, but now that they're fixed, it has cemented itself as a blast from the past. In fact, they're still just as great today as they were 10 years ago, as I believe new school gamers can have just as much fun with this timeless franchise. There's a reason that Halo is constantly listed as one of, if not the best arena first-person shooter games ever made. And the fact that you get Halo 1 and Halo 2 Anniversary, plus you get Halo 3 and Halo 4, you get to play a very memorable story on top of one of the best multiplayer franchises to ever be made. The real draw to the Master Chief Collection, though, is Halo 2 Anniversary, which is a remake and brings back arguably the best Halo in a big way. The cutscenes were actually made by Blur, and wow, it is the only way I can explain them. While Forza Motorsports is more geared at being a racing simulator, Forza Horizon is more of an arcade racing game, but does have similar mechanics to its older brother. It throws you into a big open world, and it feels alive thanks to its drivatars, as well as other real-life racers being in the same world as you. The thing is, Forza Horizon 4 is often explained as being the best racing game ever made, and yeah, that fits it about perfectly. It is that good. I went back and forth on the number 1 spot, but ultimately, I had to go with Killer Instinct. Yes, when it originally released, it was criticized for its lack of content, but from day one, it was praised for its netcode and fighting mechanics. As time went on and it got more and more content, people started to recognize just how good Killer Instinct was. It has a fantastic cast of characters that frankly you're not going to see in any other game. I mean, you can have a dinosaur fight a giant toad, a mummy, or a werewolf. It is that crazy, but that's Killer Instinct for you. The mechanics are unique and allows newcomers to jump in relatively easy, but somehow it also managed to be so incredibly deep at the same time for those who want to be the best of the best. And that is one of the reasons that Killer Instinct is so fun. And just everything about it is so good. I can't think of a thing that I really disliked about that game. It may not be as popular as Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat in the fighting game community, but I do absolutely, genuinely believe that Killer Instinct is the best fighting game that I have ever played, and I will stand by that 100%. Anyways, that's it for this video, but I do hope it helped you out, and if I forgot some of your favorite games, let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Peace out.